Thanks for staying. Welcome back. The Association of Ghana Industries, AGI, has expressed its preparedness to leverage government's industrialization program, One District, One Factory, to produce more for the African market. According to the association, it has identified some export-oriented businesses throughout the country, which will be developed soon. James Asaria J. is president of the association.
What we are saying is that the country can only develop when industrialization, becomes the hallmark. And here we are targeting all the districts. Now, this $2 billion facility is to ensure that we can put up the factories, put in the equipment, the machinery, and then be able to operationalize, such factories.
Okay.
And
so how is this disbursement going to go?
Well, we have criteria, and then we have the Ministry of Trade and Industry, being part. We have the National Secretariat of One District, One Factory. Then the AGI Secretariat, receiving applications of good business plans. So we want bankable projects, we want projects that will transform the economy. We are looking at export-oriented projects. What the country needs at this point in time is to become export-oriented, to have that capacity, to produce not only for the sub-region, but then we are also looking at the whole continent and globally. If you may have noticed or heard, by the close of the year, now the entire African continent is going to be one market, you see, and under the Free Continental Agreement. Now, this offers a very good opportunity for Ghana to export. Even though we have over 350 million people in the sub-region, but we can have over 1 billion on the continent. And these are the opportunities we want to take, as a country. And that is why AGI is leading the government's industrialization agenda. Already we have identified over 400 factories in the various districts, the 216 districts in the country. Now, you see, some of these factories, some are operating, but then in a very minimal capacities. We think that they can be recapitalized, and then we can expand the capacities of these industries, taking advantage of economies of scale. So that we can then scale up and bring in more foreign exchange to shore our city. And these are the goals, the driving blocks, of the One District, One Factory that AGI is championing.
Moving now into the financial space, some players in the banking sector are appealing to the Bank of Ghana to consider other factors as it moves to implement new capital levels for the industry. Joy Business understands the regulator has finally settled on the new minimum capital requirement, and the public announcement could be made next week. But ahead of the announcement, President of the Chartered Institute of Bankers, Reverend Patricia Sapor, tells Joy Business the Bank of Ghana should not look at the one-size-fits-all approach.
I believe that capitalization is very, very key. It will help us to handle very good transactions, big tickets. It will strengthen, the capital base of banks. But I'm saying that it should not be a one-size-fits-all. There are very big banks and there are smaller banks, especially the indigenous banks. Would they have the capital? Would they have the capacity, would they have those amounts, to meet the capital requirements? So in my opinion, even though it is good, it should be tiered, for tier 1 banks and then also the smaller banks. That for banks that are willing to handle small transactions, they should also have their capital. And then the very big ones that want to handle very big transactions should also have their capital. If I'm running a business and I want to run a very small business, you can't ask me to be like Game, or you can't ask me to be like ShopRite. The fact that I cannot be like ShopRite does not mean that I cannot operate. So it's more, I believe, that it's more of the regulation. It is more of the measures that we put in place and the measures that the central bank puts in place, the monitoring of these things and ensuring that all banks comply.
Now, Managing Director of Cal Bank, Frank Edu Jr., is, however, worried about what would happen to local banks in this whole recapitalization process.
Let me say that I am not averse to the requirement to increase the capital of banks. I think it's something that has to be done and should be done as quickly as possible. However, I'm also concerned about how we do it. Clearly, I think from what we're hearing, the increase or the new requirements would be significant. And when that happens, there's a possibility of the industry, so to speak, being hijacked by foreign investors. It's not necessarily a bad thing, but I think it's important that we recognize that we should still have indigenously grown and financially well-capitalized banks. I am not in any way suggesting a staggering or a differentiation as was done in the past, okay? But I think that should be kept in mind. It's clear that from the discussions this morning that we're probably also looking at a strategy where smaller banks will be forced to amalgamate, merge, etc. I think it's probably a cultural thing, and over time that people will come to realize that it's just business, and therefore we should be able to put 2-3 banks together. You know, there is a certain psychological resistance and barrier to that notion, but over time the business of doing business of banking and the financial requirements of doing the business of banking within the framework of the new capital requirements, Basel II, Basel III, risk-adjusted capital, risk mitigation factors, etc. The new IFRS 9 proposals for calculating NPLs, etc., would force banks to look at the issue and decide that, yes, we want to join together to do the business.
All right, so we would like to reach out to banking consultant Nana Otuo-Champong to put together all these views into perspective, but we can't have him now. As in, when we reach out to him, we'll get his views. But let's try and play with some numbers here. What Joy Business can confirm is that the new capital requirement could be in the range of 300 million cedis to about 500 million cedis. Well, maybe the Bank of Ghana could settle on 400 million cedis. We will certainly update you on current developments. Away from that, let's now move to the insurance sector. And newly appointed Commissioner of the National Insurance Commission, NIC, Justice Yaw Ofori, has opened up to Joy Business on the priorities he will consider to increase penetration in the sector. Charles Aite has been speaking to him and has now joined us live from the National Insurance Commission here in Accra. Charles.
All right, Emmanuel, so we're currently here with the newly appointed Director of the National Insurance Commission, Mr. Yaw Ofori, to help us understand his own, decisions and specific reforms that he might be taking on as he takes this very job as the Director of the NIC, and several matters arising in that very regard. Thank you very much, sir, for being here on Marketplace. So first of all, you're coming on board with various, policies and reforms, top of which is the increase of the capital for insurers in excess of 30 million cedis. Why that?
The idea is to encourage our local insurance companies to build capacity. The higher the minimum requirement, the better it is for you to actually increase your capacity. So basically that it's good for the industry.
Now, you have been stating the fact that you're also wishing for life insurance to be made compulsory. Don't you think that this as well could shorten the lifespan of the insurance penetration in the country?
No, not life insurance being compulsory. We're talking of credit life. Basically, if you go for credit from the bank or something, we think that it should be compulsory for the borrower to have some life insurance policy, so that should the unforeseen happen, someone loses his life, the lending company would actually have some way of being reimbursed.
All right, let's also talk about the local content policy and your moves to, rope in some insurance in that very sector. Help us understand this. Well,
to apply for insurance, you need 15 million cedis right now. that makes it easy for anybody to actually get in. But the question is the person able to absorb much capacity? The Ghanaian economy is growing, so it means that the insurance companies should also increase their capacity to match the growth of the economy. So that is what we are going to look at in the coming years.
You're coming on board in the wake of various concerns faced the insurance industry. That's of the low penetration is also much of a worry to many insurers. What do you think could be the state of insurance in Ghana today?
Yeah, penetration rate is less than 2%, which is very bad for a country like Ghana, which has a very strong growing economy. We believe that we should be seeing penetration rate in the double digits probably within the next 3 to 4 years. And we can do this by instilling or bringing about some confidence in insurance. People think insurance people are fast to collect premiums, but slow to pay claims. And this is what we want to work on. We want to work on a speedy, expeditious claims investigation, negotiation, and settlement process. Once people have confidence in the claims process, they're going to have confidence to buy premium policies, and that would also increase penetration rate. Secondly, we believe that we should concentrate on things like microinsurance, which is for the informal sector. We've all been thinking of the formal sector of insurance, but we should be thinking of the lower income people who form the majority of our economy. Ghana also being a country that depends mostly on agriculture, we should be looking at that area. So we have to strengthen the agriculture insurance. Once we do these three things, I think that penetration should be encouraging.
We are to be expecting the bancassurance conference in the next few days. What are your thoughts on this? How do you welcome this?
It's a good idea for insurance and bankers to work together. The bankers are selling insurance through insurance companies. There's always an insurance company behind what is being sold. But there are some few challenges that we have to look at, especially we do not control the banks. We don't regulate the banks. So it's very difficult for us to go and then check on the banks to make sure they are doing what is right. They're following the requirements of the Insurance Act. So we'll be working with the Bank of Ghana to see how these things can be streamlined.
Finally, sir, you've been appointed the new director of the NIC. What remains your priorities in the next few months?
Yeah, my priority is to make sure that insurance, like Ghana insurance industry, will become a name that everybody will recognize with expeditious settlement of claims. Secondly, we expect that penetration rates should go high, probably in the double digits within the shortest possible time. And I think people should have interest in buying insurance. I think that's the bottom line.
All right, Ms. Ayal, many thanks for being here with us on the marketplace. So you did hear that Emmanuel Aboagye. We shall still be following up on various concerns and issues that are currently being faced in the insurance industry. As you rightly heard from the newly appointed director, his move to ensure that the penetration rate is on the very high side, amongst other things. So we shall be following closely to give you updates as and when we do have them.
Thank you very much, Charles Aiti. Now, Executive Director of Career Training Entity Edubia and Associates, Edubia EC, has highlighted the alarming situation of graduate unemployment in the country. 48% of graduates are said to be without jobs, hampering future socio-economic development. It is against this backdrop that Edubia and Associates is putting in place measures as part of the Careers Grooming Workshop to help prepare graduates for the competitive job market. Edubia EC, who is the initiator of the workshop, has been sharing her thoughts on Joy Business.
The importance of this workshop is that this is a critical thing that we have to address as individuals and as a nation. Because if we don't address this, it means that our workforce are going to be continuously unproductive. A large number of our workforce are not productive in the workplace. When it comes to our business behavior, a majority of our workforce, the business behavior is not at a very high level. The attitude to work, has to be enhanced. And so this career grooming workshop is geared towards ensuring that our business behavior is enhanced, our work ethics is enhanced, our attitude towards work is enhanced, and it is done at a world-class level so that we don't continue to be mediocre in what we do. So it's a broad range of activities and sessions that we are going to have, many geared at workers, job seekers, and then students. One of the things that they'll be looking at is what is their attitude towards work. It has to be world class. And we cannot continue to have very poor attitudes. We're going to groom them and nurture them to have world-class business behavior. That is one. The second thing is that that we churn out graduates who are unemployable. They are unemployed and unemployable. And the reason why they are unemployable is that they do not have soft skills. Now, the other element of soft skills, apart from good business behavior, is performance skills. We don't have, our graduates don't come into the workforce prepared for analytical thinking, creative thinking, being able to be a problem solver. They don't know it. Okay, so there are ways in which it's going to be a very hands-on approach.
Still on education, let's now share some tidbits on the free SHS policy. All right, so away from that, the Chamber of Petroleum Consumers is asking authorities to make use of the price stabilization margin in the price petroleum buildup to cushion consumers against expected fuel price hikes this month. The recent hurricane, which hit the American state of Texas, affected the operations of major oil refineries, rendering them unable to produce. The situation has forced fuel prices to go up globally, and this is expected to have an impact on the local market as well. Duncan Amwa is Executive Secretary of the Chamber of Petroleum Consumers.
Once you have a hurricane that size that affects the supply side, what happens to world indexes is that you find prices keep going and soaring. And so it's not surprising that over the past 1 week, petrol has seen almost 17% increase on Platts. Diesel has done almost 13%. This indeed is quite worrying if we are in Ghana, where the net through or the pass-through effect on final pump pricing is felt. This can be only worrying for all of us here, especially at a time when fuel prices are already way too high for all of us. If you look at Ghana's fuel pricing, what you call the price sheet, there's a variable on there that we call the price stabilization margin. We would want to encourage to kick in the price stabilization margin at this point. That money has been collected over the period, and some of the uses for that money is what we are seeing today, where there's a global shock, there's a sudden rise in global prices, and the Ghanaians might not be able to just afford any price at all. I'm sure that is why the price stabilization margin monies have been collected over the period. We would expect some attempt by government around this time to cushion consumers. Anything less, and I'm sure fuel prices will go way higher than we currently are already paying.
Let's also shift our attention to the railway sector. The inconvenience of moving goods from the Tema port to the export processing area at the Free Zones Enclave will soon be a thing of the past. This will be possible through the construction of a 15-kilometer railway line from the Tema Harbour to the Free Zones area as a means of enhancing transportation for industries and businesses operating within the enclave. The project is expected to be commissioned in the first quarter of 2018. Joy Business's Ebenezer Sabute was in the Free Zones area and has been engaging the Executive Director of LMI Holdings, contractors of the project, on the progress of work so far.
Tema Export Zone, it's a facility for the Ghana Free Zones Authority, and they are trying to, create or construct a railway line, 15-kilometer railway line, to ease the traffic for travelers along the Tema and Aflao Road. We all know that whenever you are traveling to Aflao, you have to use the Tema roundabout, which industries also use for transporting their commodities. This is what the Free Zones Authority is doing. It's a public partnership project that they are doing, and it is going to be commissioned by the first quarter of next year to ease transportation of goods, services for companies and industries that operate at the Tema Free Zone Enclave.
That's the railway line, and that will go, this thing is going up. So the railway line will go under this bridge. What you're seeing is about 3 stories of concrete roof.
So from here to where?
This is the end of the railway line. Yeah, that's where it ends. And it's going all the way to the harbour.
What will be the impact on transportation?
Well, it means all the factories don't need to drive their goods to the harbour. They will just take the rail and then straight to the harbour.
What is the length of this project?
It is 15 kilometers.
15 kilometers,
yes.
So how soon are we likely to complete it?
We are hoping by first quarter next year we should do that. Yeah. Because we had to clear squatters, all that. We've done that. We have cleared all the line to the first station. And we are waiting for the new harbour project to get the platform for us to get there. But the locomotives, everything is ready. From GE Capital, everything is ready. All the lines are ready. We are now producing the railway sleepers at Dawa. We've got a machine in Ghana which is producing the concrete sleepers.
Okay, so you produce the sleepers at Dawa and you bring it down here, is that it?
Yes, that's where it will come, yeah.
Okay, so who is funding this project?
Oh, we borrow. We normally borrow to do that. We look at the model. If it will be profitable, we do it.
So how much is going into this?
I haven't got into the last of it because it's a new thing we are doing. So we have an idea how much it's going to cost, but I'm not going to disclose that to you. Yeah.
You can see work is progressing steadily at the Tema Harbour Railway Project, which is a 15-kilometer rail from the export processing zone to the Tema Harbour. It is aimed at easing traffic on the route from Tema to the export zone. This will help industries to transport their businesses from and to the export facility. From Tema here at the export processing zone, I'm Ebenezer Sabute for Joy Business.
And right here in the studio, this is the marketplace. Let's now pause for an investment tip courtesy Daffin Finance.
Investment Tips is brought to you by Daffin Finance, deposits, investments, borrowings, and advisory.
Tips for starting your investment. Develop your budget to know how much you can invest every month. Keep your debt and expenditure under control. Have an investment plan and stick to your investment plan. Don't let the ups and downs in your finances affect your investment plan.
Investment Tips was brought to you by Dauphin Finance, deposits, investments, borrowings, and advisory.
And that'll be a wrap for this afternoon's edition of the Marketplace. Thank you so much for keeping company with us from the beginning of the week till now. And make a date again next week for more interesting developments in the world of business. My name is Emmanuel Abuaji Riafi. Have a good afternoon and enjoy your weekend.